My name is Heidy Ventura, and I'm going to be talking about an experience I had in Israel of summer 2014. Um, when I had first arrived in Israel, I believe it was sometime in June. And the moment I had arrived to where I was staying, an alarm had gone off throughout the entire city. And it's kind of exactly what you see in a movie, where there's something epic going on and everyone has to like run and kind of like take cover. And when I had arrived and the alarm went off, you notice that everyone runs to a safe house, or they run to an area that is designated as safe. And I wasn't entirely sure what was going on since I've never experienced something like that before. Luckily, where I was staying, the room in which I was staying in was the safe room of the apartment. So we ran to the safe room and stayed there for about 5 minutes. And you kind of just wait until you hear an explosion, because when the alarm goes off, it is a rocket that is being hit or targeted towards our city from, at the time, was Gaza. So we went to the safe room on my first day there, and I just waited for the explosion to pass, and after everything passed and you hear the noise, you are then able to leave the safe room. And that was just the beginning of my summer in Israel. There were several other instances where you would go out and at any moment you weren't sure when you were going to hear the alarm go off. There are some rules in regards to when you hear the alarm. If you are outside by chance at the beach or at a restaurant and you're outside, you do have to pretty much take cover. You are told to lay flat on the floor and not to move or make any sudden movements until after everything has passed. Depending on what city you're in, you have certain like minutes or seconds or for you to take cover and for you to stay where you are to make sure that you're safe. There was an instance where I was grocery shopping, and in the grocery store there were 3 different moments where the bomb had gone off. And as I'm grocery shopping, and when you hear the alarm go off, assumingly I just followed everyone else, and there was luckily a safe room inside of the market where everyone kind of just had to drop what you're doing and immediately run into the safe room. And from inside that safe room, you are able to hear the loud explosion. And what that explosion is when a rocket is coming from Gaza. In Israel, there's something called the Iron Dome, and the Iron Dome collides with the rocket that is being targeted into our city, and they collide in the air and it explodes in the air. So that's the loud explosion that you have to kind of just wait for. And luckily we were indoors for most of the time that things like this took place. There were some instances where I was outside, and I actually did see where the Iron Dome rocket and the rocket from Gaza did hit in the air, and something that I would never forget. Unfortunately, there are some people in our city that I was living in that did die, not because the rocket had actually touched base where we were, but it was because of the debris from the explosion that obviously just fell onto moving cars or people who were outside and were killed by the debris. Luckily enough, though, there weren't in our city that many people who died because of that. It did last throughout the entire summer, and it even came to the point where there were tunnels that were dug from Gaza into Israel, and in my city there were kind of like these holes like in the ground where you never knew if someone was going to just pop up out of them, and obviously look to do harm to whoever was around. And there was also another instance where they had dug some sort of tunnel into under the water, and they were able to just kind of pop up into like our shorelines next to the city that I was living in. And I guess luckily enough, they were all stopped. I think in the city that I was living in, which was more in the south, which is towards Gaza, got more of the rockets and the sirens going off than say Tel Aviv would, because Tel Aviv is not like directly in the south. So given that I was studying at the university there, the students that were living on campus didn't really understand what was going on, because they didn't hear the sirens as often as I did, or they didn't experience the things that I did, because I lived more in the south than they did. Luckily enough, everything kind of just blew over as soon as the summer was over. I did stay there for summer 2015, and there were some bombings here and there, rockets being thrown here and there, but not nearly as much as summer of 2014, where I feel it was like a full-out war between Gaza and Israel. I know that there were a lot of people who died because of this on both ends, but it was definitely an experience that I don't think is unforgettable. But luckily enough, now everything seems to have gotten better. I am not there obviously now, but I'm not sure how things will be coming this summer, because living there, the people and my friends who have been there and lived there all their lives kind of say that it's something that it's always happened. Like, the people that live there are so used to this. They already know the routine. For them, it's not something that's scary. Whereas the first day that I experienced it, I was like hyperventilating. I was crying. I didn't understand what was going on. I was petrified. But everyone else, they're used to this, because I guess it's not something that happens often, but it does happen often enough that they already know what to do and how to just remain calm throughout it all. But yeah, so summer of 2014 was definitely a summer that I will never forget.